Get out of here." "Leave? I warned you over the phone. If you dare to reprimand my daughter again, you'll have to leave. You ignored my warning, so kindly get out." "That's absurd." I'm shocked by Emily, my sister-in-law's unreasonable demand, at a loss for words. Seeing me silent, Emily continues her tirade. "You're just my brother's wife, an outsider. Stop pretending to be part of our family." Hearing these words from Emily shatters something inside me. I had endured Emily's verbal abuse and her daughter Olivia's selfishness, thinking they were family. But now all the things I did with their interests at heart have been entirely negated. I have no reason to respect Emily and Olivia anymore. "All right, I'll leave," I reply calmly and start packing. Emily and her daughter Olivia laugh heartily at my situation, but they won't be laughing for long. I think this as I gather my belongings. My name is Chloe. I live with my husband Ethan and his parents. Ethan had requested from the time he proposed that we live with his parents once we were married. At first I hesitated, but when I met Ethan's parents, I realized they were decent folks who respected boundaries. Convinced that life with them would be manageable, I accepted Ethan's proposal. Once we moved in together, my mother-in-law took over all the housework while I worked outside. In turn, I took over the chores when I was at home. We divided the work in the house and everything went smoothly. However, the visits from Ethan's sister Emily were always distressing. Emily has a daughter, Olivia. They frequently visited us, and each time, Emily would take jabs at me relentlessly. "Chloe, can I get a cup of tea? I'm so tired from my part-time job and raising my child. You must be relaxed on your days off at home. I'm so jealous." "Well, I also work when I'm at home." "Oh, the work you do at home is insignificant. I go out to work every day and have a leadership position. Don't compare yourself with me." When it was time for Olivia to find a job, Emily often came over to complain about why Olivia couldn't find one. "Olivia is excellent, just like me. The recruiters who reject her must be blind." Maybe she could broaden her job search? Whenever I tried to give advice, Emily would lash out furiously. "What? What could you, who barely works, know? Shut up." It seems Olivia finally landed a job after most of her classmates did. Olivia and Emily came over to report the good news to my mother-in-law. "Granny, I've got a job. Look." Olivia proudly shows off her job offer letter to my mother-in-law, who smiles contentedly. "Well done, Olivia." "Yeah, I didn't expect to get into such a large company in the end. The interviewer was kind from the start." Next to Olivia, Emily grins broadly. "This company is a subsidiary of the company I work part-time for. My name might be known even in the parent company since I've been around a while." "So I got the job thanks to Mom, huh?" "It could be. The interviewer saw your name, recognized you as my daughter, and probably had a good impression. Come April, Olivia was to attend a month-long training program for new employees. The training location was only a few minutes away from the home where my in-laws and I lived. Emily, knowing this, called my mother-in-law. "Mom, I want Olivia to commute from your house during her training. The training place is over an hour away from our home." "We have a spare room and I don't mind at all. Let me just check with Chloe." "Do you need to ask Chloe?" "Well, but that's your house, right? Chloe is just living there. She won't complain." Thanks to Emily's insistence, I only found out that Olivia would be living with us for a month after everything had been decided. I was a bit puzzled, but there was no reason to oppose Olivia living there. I warmly welcomed Olivia, and our shared life began. Once the training began, Olivia was late 1 out of every 3 days, despite the training location being just a stone's throw away. It seemed that her habit of waking up at a fixed time every morning had completely disappeared due to her relaxed student life. Grandma, why didn't you wake me up? I called you many times. If I don't make it in time, calling me doesn't mean anything. Forget it. I'm taking the morning off today. Please call the company and tell them I'm taking half a day off due to poor health. Olivia, you're an adult now. You should be doing such things yourself. If I say I'm too sick to even make a phone call, it'll be more believable. Just do as I say. Taking advantage of my mother-in-law's soft spot for her granddaughter, Olivia had become completely spoiled. Even when she came home from training, Olivia wouldn't do anything for herself. Grandma, I'm tired. Is dinner ready? Welcome back, Olivia. I'm about to make it. What? You're just starting now? Why didn't you have it ready by the time I got home? I'm tired and I want to eat right away. You're so thoughtless. I'm sorry. I'll have it ready soon. Seeing my mother-in-law being pushed around by Olivia, who was probably tired from her first job, I couldn't stand it, and I spoke up. Listen, Olivia, having a warm meal waiting for you when you come home isn't something to be taken for granted. Why don't you show some appreciation to Grandma? Why do I have to listen to you, Chloe? You're not even family. Stay out of it. Not family? I married Ethan, so I am part of your family, Olivia. Family? Mom said, Chloe is my brother's wife, so she's an outsider. Then let me tell you, as a senior member of the workforce, Olivia, that you should take more responsibility for yourself. Waking up on time to avoid being late is a basic rule of being an adult. A senior in the workforce. Chloe, you're not even going to work every day. Wait till you're actually working hard like me or Mom before you start acting all high and mighty. Olivia seemed to completely ignore what I was saying. Then one day, when I returned home from work, I could hear Olivia's loud voice coming from the living room. What do you mean you're going out? It's unacceptable that there's no dinner when I come home exhausted. I'm sorry, but we're looking forward to our theater outing that day. Your theater outings are just fun and games. I have work. You need to cancel it. Apparently, my in-laws had informed Olivia that they were going to the theater next week and wouldn't be able to cook dinner, and this had infuriated her. I was well aware that my mother-in-law had been looking forward to this day at the theater for quite some time. However, I was worried that if things kept going this way, they might feel compelled to cancel their plans to avoid upsetting Olivia. So I hurriedly proposed a solution. Since you've been looking forward to this, you should go. I'll take care of Olivia's dinner that day. My in-laws seemed thrilled by my suggestion, but they quickly began to worry. But isn't that a work day for you, Chloe? Are you sure it'll be all right? Yes, if I arrange things now, I think I can get home early. So don't worry and have a good time. On the day of the theater outing, I left work early to come home. My in-laws happily left for their event. After seeing them off, I did some shopping for dinner and waited for Olivia's return. As always, as soon as Olivia came home, she lay down on the couch and waited for dinner. Oh, I'm hungry. Chloe, hurry up and get cooking. Olivia, let's cook together today. At my words, Olivia jumped up from the couch. What? What do I have to do? Isn't it natural to cook your own food? No way. I've been at work. I'm not doing housework when I'm tired. I've been working too. I've got the ingredients. Can't you just help me out? You, Chloe, can come home whenever you want from your easy job, and me, who has to go at a set time every day, are not the same. Just hurry up and make it by yourself. The fact that I was able to come home early today was a result of painstakingly adjusting my work schedule. But I doubted that Olivia would understand that. Swallowing my anger, I calmly tried to reason with her. Listen, Olivia, I'm not asking you to help me because I find it bothersome to cook alone. I want you to understand what it means to be a responsible adult. What? I don't need your interference. After letting the grandparents go out without asking me, you're giving me a lecture, which is super annoying. Olivia then stood up. visibly irritated, and started dialing on her phone. "Mom, listen to this. Chloe keeps nagging me and she won't even cook dinner." She unloaded her complaints about me to her mother, Emily. Once she had said her piece, she handed me the phone with a triumphant smile. "Mom wants to talk to you, Chloe." As I took the phone, Emily shouted at me angrily. "Listen here, who do you think you are? Talking to my daughter like that as my son's wife? If you continue to cause problems for my daughter, I'm going to ask you to leave that house." "It's not about causing problems. All I wanted to do was impart some sense of responsibility to Olivia as a working adult." "So you're trying to lecture on being a responsible adult, Chloe? You're not even a full-time employee. How can someone who is hardly needed by the company afford to be so cocky?" "How can you say I am not needed, Emily?" "When you've been around as long as I have, you can tell at a glance who's capable and who's not. I've made sure to see off many a dead weight." Then, without a second thought, Emily added, "Just go and prepare dinner for my daughter," and hung up the phone. Olivia, sitting next to me, smirked as she looked my way. "You'd better not oppose my mom, Chloe. There's no one at work who can even admonish her. So get to making dinner already, okay?" With that, she sprawled lazily on the couch again. This mother and daughter pair, there's no reasoning with them. Left with no choice, I began to prepare the meal. "I'm so hungry because of your pointless chit-chat, Chloe." As she nibbled on the meal I prepared, Olivia mumbled complaints under her breath. Once she was done eating, she abandoned her dishes and headed back to the couch to watch TV without so much as a thank you. "Hey, Olivia, at least clean up after yourself." I tried repeating myself, but all I got was a bored look from Olivia. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It was Emily. "Why are you here?" To my surprise, Emily casually replied, "It seemed like you didn't quite get the message over the phone, Chloe, so I thought I'd come over and tell you directly." Hearing her mother's voice, Olivia excitedly reported, "Mom, listen, just after you warned her over the phone, Chloe started lecturing me again." Hearing Olivia's words, Emily glared at me. "Looks like it was the right decision to come here after all. You're still complaining to my daughter even after everything I said." I had backed off on the phone, but I couldn't let this go. For Olivia's sake, I had to say something. It's not a complaint. I'm merely teaching her the basic manners of cleaning up after herself, something even a grade schooler should understand. Hearing this, Emily snapped at me. "There's no need for someone like you to be telling us about manners. Have you considered your own situation before lecturing about manners?" "What about my situation?" "You and Ethan can barely afford a house even with both your salaries combined. You're just leeching off this household. Why don't you change your own attitude before teaching my daughter about being a responsible adult?" "I'm not here to leech off you. As proof, I make sure to pay my fair share of the rent and living expenses every month." I wonder. Well, it doesn't matter. Either way, you're going to leave this place." "Leave?" "I told you on the phone, if you continue to berate my daughter, you'll need to move out. You ignored my warning, so now it's time for you to go." "That's absurd." I was at a loss for words at the sheer injustice of it all. Seeing me unable to retaliate, Emily went on. "You're still an outsider, even if you are my brother's wife. Stop acting like you're part of the family." Emily's words hit me hard, and something inside me crumbled. I had put up with Emily's insults and Olivia's selfishness because I thought of them as family. I had been rejected by them despite doing everything with their best interests at heart. There was no reason left for me to restrain myself with Emily and Olivia anymore. "All right, I'll leave," I said quietly, beginning to pack my things. At the sight of me, Emily and Olivia started to crack up. Ignoring their laughter, I continued to pack when my in-laws returned home. "Oh, is that you, Emily? Chloe, what's with the luggage?" My mother-in-law's face shifts as she takes in the scene. Before I can answer, Emily chimes in. Chloe has been lecturing Olivia while she can't even do her own job. She's become such a nuisance, we've decided to send her packing. What? My mother-in-law's face drains of color. Apologize at once. And you too, Olivia. Why should I apologize to Chloe? If she wants to be part of our family, she should ask us. Maybe then we'll consider it. Emily's statement is backed up by a firm nod from Olivia. My mother-in-law sighs deeply. You two, it's over for you. What? What are you talking about? The one who's done is Chloe, right? She's the one being cut off from our family. Emily's brazenness leaves my mother-in-law shaking. Do you even realize who made it possible for Olivia to get her job? That's me, the part-time manager. Emily tries to puff herself up, but my mother-in-law interrupts her. No, it's not like that at all. It's because Chloe, who's an executive at the corporate office, recommended her to human resources. Well, that's a lie. Chloe barely does anything. She's home half the week. Facing the confrontational Emily, I reveal the truth. I often attend executive meetings online, so I work from home. Then, did Chloe really get Olivia her job? I really wanted Olivia to find a job on her own, but she begged me for help. Why didn't you say anything? I wanted Olivia to start at the same place as everyone else, to work without any advantages. It was better for her not to know that I was an executive at her company. So, did Mom and Dad know this from the beginning? I had asked your parents and Ethan to keep my position a secret. Emily, since you always assumed I was incompetent, you never showed interest in my work, so there was no need to tell you. So you're telling me I've been disrespecting an executive at my own company this whole time? Olivia, now aware of the truth, goes pale. That's right. Thanks to my concealed identity, I got to learn a lot about how new employees like to fake illness and such. Please don't tell anyone about this, I coldly say to the desperate Olivia. You know, I thought I'd let it slide because it's a family matter, but it seems I'm not considered family to you two, so I can't stay quiet if it's something that will harm the company. But I will be assigned after the training. Exactly, Olivia. You're lacking awareness as a working professional. Moreover, you're not willing to accept others' opinions. We can't let you interact with customers with this attitude. Emily, in her panic, clings to me. I'll take back what I've said. Olivia is Chloe's adorable niece. Don't report anything that would harm her situation. Emily, don't you think you should worry about your own role? What? Your part-time team's high turnover rate has been repeatedly brought up in the parent company's meetings. If it comes to light that you, as the manager, are forcing part-time employees to quit, it's going to be a big problem. Emily remembered her own words and her face tightened. Wait, that's a misunderstanding. I was just guiding the unproductive part-timers, and then they quit on their own. I'm not responsible for this. Well, that can be investigated. We have a meeting next week with your company's board members. We'll report this and have it thoroughly examined. No way. My hard-earned managerial position? Afterwards, I decided not to leave the house after being persuaded by my mother-in-law, but I did report Olivia and Emily to the company. Olivia ended up attending a training center in the mountains for retraining for 6 months, while her peers were assigned positions one after another. It seemed she was thoroughly drilled on the basics of being a professional. Emily's workplace underwent an audit at my direction. With complaints from other employees and testimonies from those she had forced to resign, it was found that Emily was using her position of authority to cause a lot of stress to those around her. As a result, Emily was fired. Emily seems to have started a new job to cover her living expenses. However, since she's only ever worked at one place before, she's having a hard time getting the hang of her new job. Despite this, she still acts high and mighty and seems to be on the verge of getting fired from her new job as well. At this rate, her life will likely continue to be difficult. On the other hand, I continue to live peacefully, sharing household chores with my in-laws as usual. This incident seemed to have taken quite a toll on my mother-in-law. Chloe, I'm sorry. Because I've spoiled Olivia and Emily, I made you go through such unpleasant experiences. No, it's fine. I was happy that you stood up for me. Having had a good talk with my in-laws, I feel that our bond is even stronger than before. Even though my sister-in-law turned out to be a challenge, I look forward to continuing to live with my mother-in-law, maintaining our good relationship.
If you can't care for my sister, we're getting a divorce. It's been 2 months since my sister-in-law, Mary, returned from overseas and started staying at our house. I was being exploited by her day after day, and the stress was building up. I decided to talk with my husband to see if there was any way to resolve it, but he turned red with anger and demanded a divorce. I argued that it was an excessive leap to come to such a conclusion, but he refused to listen to my words. Let's have a proper discussion about what we should do moving forward. There's nothing to discuss. My sister will stay in this house as long as she wants. Frustration grew inside me as my husband casually uttered those words, and I couldn't bear it any longer. Eventually, it escalated into a big argument. Mary witnessed our situation, and not only did she fail to intervene and stop us, but she also smirked with satisfaction. It was obvious that she was the cause of all this. I had no idea what she was thinking. 2 months ago, Mary, who was married abroad, got divorced and returned to New York. She lost custody of her children to her ex-husband and was deeply heartbroken. She decided to live in a hotel instead of moving back in with her parents to avoid their probing. Eventually, she started coming over to our house occasionally, saying she was lonely. About a week had passed since Mary had started visiting, when one day I returned home from work and my husband stopped me from entering my own room. "Hold on. Don't just barge in there." "Huh? Why?" "I can't have my sister living in a hotel forever, so I decided to let her use this room." He had decided to not only let Mary move in, but to let her use my room without discussing it with me. All my personal belongings were still in the room. "This is a problem. You should have discussed it with me first." "You're such a petty woman. Why can't you just tell her to make herself at home?" "Mary didn't just get divorced, she lost her children, too." I felt guilty, as if I were the one in the wrong when he scolded me like that. As I stayed silent at a loss for words, he told me to make sure to always knock before entering the room. From that day on, Mary started using my room as if it were hers, and started treating me like a housemaid. "You came home late. I'm hungry, so hurry up and make me dinner." "I had dinner pre-cooked, so it will be ready soon." "I'll be playing a game in my room, so call me when it's ready." After preparing the meal, I knocked on the door and called her. She quickly came out, but grimaced at the sight of the meal I prepared. "Spaghetti with meatballs? You know I don't like pasta. I can't eat that. Make me a steak with a full set of side dishes." "I don't have the ingredients, and it'll take a long time to make." "Then never mind. Can you order takeout?" "I've already made pasta for 3, so bear with it today." "No way. Order takeout now." What do I do? My husband insisted that I should just go along with his stubborn sister, but I was at a loss. If I dared to express my feelings, he told me, "Think about Mary's feelings," which left me unable to retort. Mary, knowing her brother was on her side, started waking me up in the middle of the night. "I want ice cream. Go buy it now." "Huh? What time is it?" 2 a.m. The convenience store at the gas station should be open, right? Come on, get up." I was just about to fall asleep. I have work tomorrow, so give me a break. Whenever I refused, she immediately ran to my husband and tattled on me, resulting in me getting scolded and ultimately having to go get ice cream in the middle of the night. Mary never bothered to clean up after meals or help with any household chores whatsoever. On top of that, she orders me to clean her room every day. Just to be clear, her room refers to my room that she has been using. Day by day, her demands toward me escalated. Now she was asking me for money. "Sorry, that's not possible. If anything, go ask your brother." "I can't believe you're refusing. I'm going to tell my brother again. Are you okay with that?" I'd been following her orders, knowing the difficulties she's been through, but if I gave her the money now, I knew she would keep asking for more money in the future. That day, for the first time, I stood my ground and refused to be bossed around by my sister-in-law. Of course, the moment my husband got home from work, she tearfully accused me of harassing her. "Catherine, why did you make my sister cry?" I simply refused because she asked for money. Plus, she doesn't do any household chores, and on top of that, she treats me like a housemaid. I'm emotionally exhausted. It's been over 2 months since she moved into our home. Can't you do something about it? "Shut up. If you can't care for my sister, we're getting a divorce." My husband turned red with anger and demanded a divorce. I argued that it was an excessive leap to come to such a conclusion, but he refused to listen to my words. "Let's have a proper discussion about what we should do moving forward." "There's nothing to discuss. My sister will stay in this house as long as she wants." Frustration grew inside me as my husband casually uttered those words, and I couldn't bear it any longer. Eventually, it escalated into a big argument. Mary witnessed our situation, and not only did she fail to intervene and stop us, but she also smirked with satisfaction. It was obvious she was the cause of all this. I had no idea what she was thinking. Mary uttered terrifying words to me. "I'm going to make you regret it." I'm Catherine, currently 27 years old. I'm being constantly manipulated by my sister-in-law. My parents divorced when I was still young due to my father's infidelity. My mother, who raised me as a single parent, passed away from breast cancer when I was 19. Since then, although I had friends, the loneliness of not having a family could never be filled, and I lived carrying that loneliness in secret. It was during those days that I met my husband, Bob. After a year of us being together, we solidified our relationship 3 years ago. The excitement of our early days of marriage has faded, but since getting married, I've been grateful for the presence of a family. Despite this, Bob recently lost his enthusiasm for work, quit his job on his own accord, and has become a part-time worker for 3 days a week. To add to my worries, my sister-in-law, Mary, rolled into our lives. Mary was already married and living abroad by the time Bob and I got married. She was pregnant with her first child, so she couldn't come to our wedding. We never had the opportunity to meet because we were so far away. I've always heard from my mother-in-law that she was a kind and considerate daughter, so I never expected her to be so selfish, leaving me perplexed and bewildered. Her behavior continued to escalate. When I came home from work the following day, Mary was grinning with a handful of bills in her hands. The amount of money she had seemed too large to have been given by Bob. "Mary, what's with all that money?" "I sold some bags and jewelry I found in the bedroom." "Wait, you mean my room?" "Where else would they be?" I immediately rushed into my room and opened the closet, but found my mother's heirloom bags and jewelry were nowhere to be found. Mary laughed hysterically as she saw me coming out of the room in a panic. "Why did you sell my stuff?" "Because you wouldn't give me any allowance." "Don't mess around. Those were family heirlooms from my mother." "Good, so you didn't need them anymore." "That's not the point. Where did you sell them? Tell me right now." "Geez, chill out. It was this place called Super Thrift Shop, but I doubt you can get them back." I headed straight to the thrift shop to buy back the items. She just sold them today, so they still should be undergoing maintenance. It shouldn't be too late to buy them back. When I arrived at the thrift shop, I was confronted with a shocking truth. They had a rule they could only return the items to the person who sold them, unless there was proof that the items were stolen. There was nothing I could do without the proper evidence. I was aware of this rule, but I was so caught up in the moment that it slipped my mind. As I trudged back home, a burning desire for revenge against my sister-in-law consumed me. I will get to the bottom of this. First, I'll start by cleaning my room. Another week had passed. I found myself still at the mercy of my demanding and self-centered sister-in-law, enduring my husband's anger along the way. Finally, the time for the decisive battle had arrived. Like any other day, Mary treated me like a housemaid, and my patience was thin. As the evening approached, I ended up getting into an argument with Bob. "Like I've said before, I can't go on like this if you don't treat my sister better." "Are you threatening me with divorce again?" "If you don't change your attitude toward Mary, I might have to." Lately, it seemed like Bob believed as if he brought up divorce, I would stay silent and obey. As usual, he looked down on me with arrogance, and Mary stood next to him, laughing. That was when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my mother-in-law standing there. Long time no see, Catherine. Can I come in? I'm happy you came. Please come in. Mom, why are you here? Upon seeing his mother, I noticed my husband's expression seemed to darken. My sister-in-law, instead of expressing joy at the long-awaited reunion, didn't even show a smile on her face. Why was she behaving like this when her own mother was here to visit? Oh my, I didn't know you had a friend over. My mother-in-law, upon seeing Mary, said such a thing. What are you talking about? She's your daughter, isn't she? Oh, stop joking. Mary just had her second child. She actually recently sent me some photos. My mother-in-law took out her cell phone and showed me a photo of the real Mary, who was still happily married overseas. The person in the photo was completely different from the woman standing in front of us, claiming to be Mary. As the woman tried to leave the living room in a flustered manner, my mother-in-law sternly stopped her. So, who are you? Well, I am a friend. Yeah, she's my friend. The lie was apparent from their panicky expressions. That's when I revealed her true identity. So you aren't Mary after all. I've always thought it was odd. You must be Bob's mistress. What are you talking about? Don't spout nonsense. I couldn't let him deceive us at this point. I immediately showed my mother-in-law a video saved on my laptop of the two of them getting cozy in my living room. Bob attempted to snatch the laptop away from his mother to prevent her from seeing it, but I intervened to stop him. What is this? You better have a good explanation. What should I say? Taking over for my stumbling husband, I revealed the whole truth to my mother-in-law. Bob has been letting this woman, whom he claims to be Mary, stay at our house for over 2 months, out of pity for her having gone through a divorce and losing custody of her child. On top of that, this woman sold my mother's heirlooms at a thrift shop without my consent. The footage went out, capturing this woman appearing cheerfully and excited, mentioning that she made money from selling my mother's heirlooms. She even suggested to my husband that they go out and have fun with the money. How could she do such a terrible thing? So, what's happened to the heirlooms? They can only return it to the person who sold it, so it's currently being kept at the thrift shop. After informing my mother-in-law, I turned to the woman who seemed quite uncomfortable. You are Megan Foster, aren't you? No, you're wrong. Don't make baseless accusations. Do you have any evidence? It's pointless to play innocent. You may not have known, but I happen to be the manager of the super thrift shop. Huh? I didn't see you there. I wasn't at the shop on the day my mother's heirlooms were sold because I was attending a meeting at headquarters. Being the manager of the shop, I was able to verify the ID of the person who sold the items. That's how I realized the woman was not my sister-in-law. But I had no definite proof, and I was afraid she might come up with excuses, so I decided to come up with a plan. My mother-in-law had been wanting to go watch a performance by her favorite artist, so I decided to buy tickets for her. The plan was to ask her to come pick up the tickets, invite her to stay the night at our house so she wouldn't have to travel back. Unaware of the situation, she was thrilled, and that's how we got to today. I'm sorry for making you come here without telling you the truth. That's all right. I understand it's not easy for you to talk about this. By the way, how did you manage to capture the footage? I didn't want my belongings being sold without my permission again, so I installed some light bulb-shaped hidden cameras in my room while cleaning. I had a vague suspicion that she might be an affair partner, but I never expected something like this. Sure enough, the footage showed the two of them getting intimate when I wasn't around. It was quite a shock when I first saw the footage, but Bob and I had been arguing whenever we spoke to each other, so I had been thinking it might be time to call it quits. But still, it's tough to witness your husband having an affair. Catherine, Mom, I was just being manipulated by this woman. How pathetic of you to say that. Lying about her being your sister and letting her stay at our house. What were you thinking? Don't blame this on me. I only pretended to be your sister because if we were caught having an affair, I would be kicked out of the house with nowhere to go. You keep your mouth shut. Besides, you were the one who said it would be convenient for me to use your wife as a housemaid. You even said that if you end up getting a divorce as the result of marital issues, you wouldn't be charged with alimony. I was taken aback and filled with rage upon learning that Bob had said all of this. Now that your relationship has fallen apart, it's impossible to mend things as a couple. Why don't you guys get a divorce? Then you and I can live happily ever after, right, Bob? Sure, you've always wanted a divorce from me, so let's part ways. I've already prepared this, so file it when you're done filling it out. As I handed Bob the divorce papers with my name already filled in, he started to panic. Don't rush things. I have no intention of leaving you. Please, just let this one thing slide. The sight of Bob begging on his knees before me was truly pitiful. His mistress turned to him, teary-eyed. You won't abandon me, will you? You know I have nowhere else to go if I get kicked out of here. Shut up. Don't come near me. Bob forcefully brushed off the woman clinging to him. Yet the sight of the woman pleading not to break up was so tragic. It made me feel uncomfortable. In place of my husband, who didn't even spare a glance for her, I conveyed something important. You don't have to worry about where to go. Huh? Where? The police. I reported you earlier for stealing and selling my belongings. They should be arriving here any minute. I'll go back to the thrift shop right away and get your things back, so please tell them it was a mistake. As the sound of the police sirens grew closer, the woman, realizing the situation, apologized to me for the first time. I'm really sorry. I've learned my lesson. I won't do it again. If apologizing was all it took, then we wouldn't need the police, would we? I presented the woman to the police as the one who stole and sold my belongings. She was soon taken away. Bob, who had been staring blankly at the scene, began to beg on his knees again once the police had left. Don't leave me. Your salary is higher than mine. If you abandoned me, I wouldn't be able to survive. You understand that, right? You don't have to live a lavish lifestyle. And besides, you should work more than just 3 days a week. Either way, you're going to have to work more to pay me alimony. I'll pay the alimony, but can't we find a way to avoid a divorce? No chance. My mind is made up. Sign the divorce papers, now. Under my scolding, with the urging of my mother-in-law, Bob reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Hey, about the alimony. Can you deduct it from our division of assets? There are no assets that we have built together. But you have a decent amount of savings. My savings are from before we got married, so they're not for us to split. In fact, since we got married, I've been covering most of our living expenses, so it's in the red for me. Upon hearing my words, my husband turned pale, but ignoring that, my mother-in-law and I kicked him out of the house. After getting rid of the villain, we couldn't shake off a somewhat melancholic feeling. That evening, the two of us sat together, sharing drinks and having a heartfelt conversation. My mother's heirloom bags and jewelry were safely returned to me later, with enough proof showing that they were stolen. My divorce with Bob was quickly finalized, and I demanded $20,000 each in alimony from Bob and his mistress. Bob was disowned by his in-laws. He had also broken up with his mistress, who was already let out of jail, as they were constantly arguing. My mother-in-law, worried about me being alone, reached out to me every once in a while. Through this incident, I felt our bond was stronger than ever. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm standing in a chapel wearing a wedding dress. I held the hand of the man who'd been waiting eagerly for me to walk down the aisle as we vowed to love each other for eternity. I felt a trickle of happiness fall down my cheeks.
What's going on here? I had been away for about 2 months for my childbirth, and our house was an absolute mess when I returned. As I exclaimed in shock, Alfred scoffed at me. Work for the time you took off! If you have a problem, let's get divorced! Haha! As I stood speechless, Alfred wore a smug expression. Soon, he dramatically displayed the divorce papers he was holding. I'm off for happy hour now, so you better clean this up. Without even thinking of holding our baby, Alfred walked out. A volcanic rage boiled within me towards him. I will never forgive him. Who needs a husband like this? Not me. My name is Samantha. At 37, I married Alfred, who's a year younger than me, and got pregnant 2 years later. We both worked at the same company, but my morning sickness was so bad I had to frequently take time off. That's when Alfred started acting weird. Both of us had lived alone for a long time, so we were both capable of doing household chores. We didn't have any specific division of labor, and managed our lives quite well. However, since I started taking time off, Alfred became visibly grumpy and began to demand I do chores, even when I was bedridden with morning sickness. Why isn't dinner ready? Why haven't you folded the laundry? And you're not even working! On top of dealing with nausea and fatigue, I now had to deal with Alfred's verbal abuse. He never used to be like this. Why? You taking time off for morning sickness is making things awkward for me at work. I've never heard of anyone doing that. Remember Mabel, who just came back from maternity leave? Apparently, she never had any trouble with morning sickness. But even hearing that, it's not like I wanted to take time off. Morning sickness affects everyone differently. Some have it for their first child, but not the second. It varies from one pregnancy to the next. I feel bad I can't cook or do laundry right now, but it's not like I'm slacking off. Please understand that. I managed to say, lifting my heavy body, but Alfred just glared at me. Must be nice being the pregnant lady and getting away with it. At least you could have made some rice. That's not too much to ask. His words pierced my heart. I couldn't stand the smell of cooking rice since my morning sickness began. It would make me feel nauseous. I had already explained this to Alfred, and still, I couldn't come to terms with how he changed so suddenly. Right now, I'm involved in a major project at work. I don't want to take time off if I can avoid it. I try to get some work done at home, but the nausea and fatigue get in the way. I'm grateful for our baby, but it's tough managing work and daily life. Experiencing pregnancy for the first time, nearing 40, was physically and emotionally draining. I just wanted Alfred to understand and help with chores, but he acted the exact opposite of what I hoped for. It might be true that other women at work don't take time off during their pregnancy, but I wish he'd listen to me, his wife, first. Once my morning sickness subsides, we can return to how we used to be. I decided to focus on that hope, but that hope was shattered. One day, Alfred said, I talked to Nolan the other day. He's never lifted a finger at home. Makes me realize how great a husband I've been. It's always been about you, Samantha. You need to grow up now that you're becoming a mom. Nolan is the husband of our colleague, Mabel. They're the poster couple at work. I've heard numerous stories about how they became a couple and their ups and downs. They're well regarded and trusted. And Nolan never doing chores? I'd love to hear the truth someday. Yet Alfred kept comparing himself to Nolan, piling chores on me. Will I ever have a good relationship with Alfred once our child is born? I spent my days tossed by these emotions. As my due date approached, I decided to give birth at a clinic near my parents' house. A few weeks after moving to my parents, I gave birth to a beautiful girl. Seeing our baby, all the pain and fear disappeared. Alfred changed back to being a caring husband and a loving father. He would feed the baby, change her diapers. While serving tea, Mom praised him. Thank you, Alfred, for coming even on weekdays. Samantha, show some gratitude. Watching Alfred care for our child, Mom was very impressed. Though I had mixed feelings, I had to admit he was stepping up. Maybe holding our child changed Alfred. I thanked him. Thank you, Alfred. I know you're tired from work. Don't overdo it, okay? He smiled and replied, She's our child. It's natural for me to care for her. You rest up, Samantha. He really is back to his old self. A wave of happiness washed over me, and I was looking forward to our life together. After a month-long checkup at the clinic, we planned to return to our apartment with our daughter the next day. Mom looked a bit sad and said, You could have stayed a bit longer. But Alfred had repeatedly asked me to come home early. He probably couldn't wait to start our life together as a family. Excited, I opened the door to our apartment, but what I found was beyond belief. Clothes were strewn everywhere in the living room, dishes were piled up in the sink, and the brand new baby crib was still in its box. What is this? I cried out in shock. Alfred appeared, laughing mockingly. Finally, you're back. Do you know how hard it was without you? Make up for your absence and get to work. That's why I wanted you back early. If you have a problem, let's divorce. Ha! He spread out the divorce papers right in front of me, making sure I could see them clearly. Alfred's section was already filled out. I couldn't believe that my own husband could be like this. I was left speechless. I had thought he's changed. Our daughter has transformed him. How wrong I was. Without uttering a word, Alfred headed for the door. I'm off for happy hour. If you don't want a divorce, better clean up. Leaving with a condescending tone, Alfred walked out. He didn't even try to hold our daughter, not even giving her a fleeting glance. At that moment, everything became clear to me. His behavior at my parents' house had been an act to get me to come home sooner. I had hoped that one day Alfred would return to being his old self. I believed that as I went through childbirth, but I can't anymore. Holding back the overwhelming anger, I made a decision. I will never forgive that man. Divorce? Bring it on. I'll be the one to leave him. Once I made up my mind, I acted swiftly. I signed the divorce papers he handed me and immediately submitted them to the city office. After they were successfully processed, I packed my belongings and got into the car. "I'm coming back," I texted Mom as I headed home. "Samantha, what happened?" Mom was worried as I arrived. I told her everything, the history, and how Alfred treated me after coming home. She was in disbelief. Alfred did that?" Seeing her shocked, my heart ached. She had only seen the good in Alfred. Can't blame her. I was never good with relationships, and at 30, I still had no partner. They probably worried if I'd ever marry. They were overjoyed when I introduced Alfred, so I never told them about our marital issues. I had tried so hard to put their minds at ease, not wanting to burden them with more worries. But right now, I couldn't concern myself with what my parents thought. I had reached my breaking point. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't raise our child with a man like that. I've already filed the divorce papers." "What? So suddenly? Don't you think it's too soon? Maybe you should think it over after calming down?" Upon hearing the word divorce, Mom was visibly shaken. She was strongly opposed to the idea, but my determination remained steadfast. I didn't want to upset Mom, but I needed her to understand my decision. Then my typically quiet dad spoke up, looking stern. "Listen, Stella, Samantha isn't a child anymore. She's a grown woman and a mother. If she's made up her mind, we should support her decision." I knew it couldn't have been easy for him. The deep furrows in his brow said it all, but he chose to respect my decision, and gratitude welled up in me. Hearing Dad's words, Mom went silent for a bit. After an awkward pause, she nodded. "All right," accepting my choice. Late that night, as I was awakened by my daughter's cries, my phone buzzed. Alfred's name lit up the screen. Ignoring his call, I changed my daughter's diaper and began nursing her. After putting her to bed, I checked my phone again. It was flooded with missed calls and texts from him. "Where are you? Not cleaning again? Slacking off, huh? I'll teach you a lesson. Answer me. If you don't come back now, we're seriously getting a divorce." Despite his wife suddenly leaving, his condescending attitude persisted. Reading his messages, my disdain for Alfred grew even stronger. "I've already submitted the divorce papers." I sent just that text and nothing more. The next morning, more calls came in, but I didn't answer. If I had, I was sure he'd just hurl insults at me. The texts he sent were, as expected, filled with harsh words directed at me. A week later, the tone of Alfred's messages changed. "Can we talk? Please respond. I know I messed up." His once fierce words now seemed deflated. No doubt something happened at work. Even though I was on parental leave, I had informed the company just a few days ago about my divorce. It seems my hunch was right. Among the texts from him, there was a message from Nolan. "I'm sorry my messages may have led Alfred astray, especially during such a challenging time for you." I learned from a call with Mabel what had transpired. Apparently, when word of our divorce got out at the company, Alfred tried to paint me as the villain. "It's my lazy wife who's at fault, right, Nolan? You've never helped with chores at home, right? It's wrong for men to do housework." Alfred had hoped to rally Nolan to his side with those comments. However, Nolan responded with clear disgust, reprimanding Alfred. "I don't believe housework is just a woman's job. Couples should cooperate. That's why I never said I helped. Doesn't mean I don't do it. Don't twist my words to fit your narrative." Alfred, who had been so sure of himself, stood stunned upon hearing the truth. Other colleagues were present, and now rumors about Alfred's behavior spread rapidly. Unable to handle the mounting pressure, he likely reached out to me for support. But it wasn't about Nolan. Alfred had changed, and not for the better. He demanded that I do housework even when I was weakened from morning sickness, made me clean, and do laundry when I couldn't move freely due to my growing belly, and commanded me to clean our messy home right after I came back from childbirth. No matter how much he apologized now, my feelings would not waver. I decided to completely ignore him, but Alfred wouldn't give up. One weekend morning, he showed up at my parents' home. When I opened the door, he began apologizing profusely. "I'm sorry! It was my fault! Please, give us another chance!" Seeing him so desperately apologize, I was taken aback. This was the man who had looked down on me for nearly a year. When I remained silent, Alfred continued. "Nolan corrected me. It's not that he never helps with housework, but he sees it as a given, not something he helps with. I misunderstood and took it out on you, Samantha. But from now on, I promise I'll change. I'll do my part in housework and child rearing. Let's try again." "You're the liar here." I immediately pointed it out, and Alfred blurted out, "What?" in a dumbfounded tone. I was deeply exasperated by my poor judgment in choosing him as a partner. There's no way I could ever reconcile with such a man. I glared at Alfred and sternly said, "You know, I got a message from Nolan and Mabel, so I've known from the start that you misunderstood what Nolan said. But the thing is, you conveniently interpreted it to push all the household chores onto me. That's all on you, isn't it? Can you not act like Nolan misled you? You're just too selfish." At my words, Alfred looked shaken, but it seemed he still hadn't given up. I'm sorry. It was my fault for misinterpreting. Please. So, no matter what you say, my feelings won't change. Just leave now." I cut off Alfred's words and coldly sent him away. This time, Alfred clung to my arm in desperation. "Please, hear me out. Things are tough at work now. Nolan's family looks down on me, and everyone else is cold. If we can mend our relationship, maybe they'll change their minds." I see. So that's what it is. This man, after all, is just that kind of guy. Only thinking of himself. A truly despicable man. You're always thinking about yourself. Grow up. Face the consequences of your actions. I forcefully shook off his grip. He collapsed to his knees, burying his face in his hands. In the end, my father had to escort him out. A year passed. My daughter started attending daycare, and my maternity leave ended. The idea of working with Alfred again made me uneasy. However, I wasn't willing to let go of what I'd built for his sake. When I returned, everyone welcomed me warmly. At that point, I came to a shocking realization. Turns out, Alfred had left the company more than half a year ago. Apparently, he couldn't stand the looks he got and decided to leave. Later, he sought refuge at his parents' home, but his older brother's family was already living there, making things uncomfortable. Given his age, he struggled to find another job. Now he's responsible for all the household chores at his parents' house. As for me, I'm working hard to regain the skills I lost during maternity leave. With my parents' support, I'm managing both work and childcare. I'll continue to give my all every day for my daughter.
"Can you leave? My sister's coming home to give birth." My husband Travis wanted to kick me out of our home because his sister, Angelina, was coming back to her family home to give birth at a nearby hospital. "That's absurd," I argued, not buying into his unreasonable request, but he wouldn't listen and eventually threatened me with divorce. Feeling utterly disheartened by his attitude of cutting me off entirely, I agreed to the divorce and left the house. But even after our separation, Travis kept sabotaging my life. Little did he know. Karma was about to catch up with him. Hi, I'm Sherry, 34 years old. I was working as a nurse at a hospital, completely absorbed in my daily routine. I met Travis, who works in pharmaceutical sales. When he came by my workplace, our relationship blossomed from there. And a year later, we tied the knot. But just as we got married, his parents, who were running a factory from their home, decided to shut it down. His parents were elderly, and for the past few years, it had just been his mom, Melissa, and him trying to keep the business afloat. But due to the economic downturn, they decided to close shop. Travis, however, felt a sense of duty and decided to take over. I tried to dissuade him, saying a job in pharma sales was more stable than running a failing factory. But Travis is stubborn. Once he makes up his mind, there's no changing it. So we ended up moving in with his parents almost immediately after getting married. At that point, Travis felt motivated to turn things around, and so he decided to renovate the old family home and factory. The construction started in no time. Wow, it's really coming along. I'm so glad we decided to add this terrace. We can have barbecues in the summer. I can't wait. Initially, I was skeptical, but his enthusiasm was infectious. Once the New Year's celebrations were over, our new home was ready, and our life with his parents began. Here's to a good life together from today. Thank you. I'm really happy we could make this work. I know Travis can be a handful. I was initially worried about how his parents would take to me, but they warmly welcomed me. They seemed happy to have a daughter-in-law who was willing to support their son as he struggled to keep the family business going. That night, while arranging pictures of our travels in our new bedroom, Travis walked in. Wow, Sherry, this space looks great, just like you said. I know, right? I'm glad we finally have a place to put up our photos. Thank you for sticking by me through all this. You're making me blush, thanking me like that. Don't worry, I'll make the factory successful and give you an easy life. Don't push yourself too hard, but I'm excited. I felt genuinely grateful for respecting my husband's ambition to build a brighter future. However, 2 months later, Melissa received a message from Angelina. It read, I want to go back home and give birth at a family hospital near our home. I'll be back the week after next. Upon hearing this, Travis was overjoyed, raising both arms. We have to vacate our bedroom for her. We don't have any spare rooms. What? I don't like that idea. Why not? It's for my pregnant sister. I can sleep in the study, so it's no problem. What about me? Well, you can sleep in the kitchen or the hallway, I guess. That's ridiculous. Let's clear out the corner room on the second floor for Angelina. That room is cramped and full of clutter. How about you sleep there instead? I've made up my mind, right, Mom? If Travis says so, let's do it that way. I object. I'm fine with Angelina coming, but I don't want to give up our bedroom. I was upset that my husband would dismiss my feelings to accommodate Angelina and that Melissa readily agreed with him. Stop being selfish. This is my house. Please, bear with it for a little while. I don't accept this. It's my house too. As I continued to object, Travis's face tightened, clearly getting irritated. Then he spoke words of surprise. What? You're my wife. You should understand. It's odd for you to claim this as your home when you're just my son's wife. What? A wife isn't family, you know? If you hate it so much, just leave. Why? Angelina left home when she got married too. She's my sister. We share blood. Plus, her unborn child could be the heir to this house. Right now, I want to prioritize a potential heir. If you hate it that much, go back to your family home. I was taken aback, unable to come up with a quick retort. I felt disgusted that Travis was already considering the heir issue upon hearing Angelina's baby was a boy. And there was another concern on my mind. What about our child? You said you couldn't think about having kids until the business was stable, so any child will do? Enough! Enough! I'm fed up! If you can't obey me, let's get a divorce. Fine by me. Bring it on. Until now, I've always respected my husband's wishes, but this time I can't let it go. In a fit of anger, I agreed to the divorce. No regrets. I'm convinced I can't go on with this man. My husband, unable to contain his anger, stormed off somewhere. I seized the opportunity to pack my bags and leave. As I was about to go, my husband reappeared with the divorce papers in hand. Here's what you wanted. Now sign it, quick. That was fast. You're a lifesaver. As I grabbed the divorce papers and started writing without hesitation, My husband muttered something unpleasant in my ear. "You're stupid for choosing divorce over this. I thought you were smarter. Don't come crying back to me." "The stupid one might be you." "What did you say?" "Just go. Vanish." Spewing venomous words, my husband retreated into his study. I finished the divorce papers, left the house, and submitted them immediately. I never thought I'd leave my husband like this, but I know I made the right choice. I resolved to move on. I went straight to a real estate agent and quickly signed a lease for a condo near work. I had a few days before moving in, so I stayed with a coworker. When I explained the situation, she offered her support, promising to be there if I needed her. A week later, I completed the move to my new condo and began my new life. But peace didn't come easy. About a month into living alone, I noticed I was being followed by a man named Travis. I ignored his unsettling presence until a coworker came up to me with alarming news. "Your ex-husband was here earlier, spreading rumors that you cheated on him, and that's why he was dumped." "What?" "Don't worry, no one's taking him seriously. We know you didn't do anything like that. I'm Team Sherry all the way." "Thank you." He probably couldn't forgive me for finally standing up to him. He must be trying to make me regret my decision by harassing me. But I thought if I just endure this a little longer, he'll quit. I apologized to my colleagues for the disturbance and went about my days, pretending not to be rattled. A month later, just as I'd hoped, Travis stopped stalking me, and I thought I was finally in the clear. But I would soon find out how naive I had been. One day, after coming home from work, I checked my mailbox, only to find rotten fruit inside. I had a gut feeling that Travis, who had followed me and discovered where I live, was behind this. Day after day, I'd find dead insects or filthy objects in the mailbox. This was harassment, beyond tolerable levels. Just when I was considering reporting it to the police, it suddenly stopped. But the moment I let my guard down, something new appeared in my mailbox. This cycle continued. 3 months after I had moved out, Travis finally called me. "Hey, it's me. Can we talk?" "Sure." I agreed to meet up at a cafe near my home. I wanted to confront him face to face. It had been a while since we saw each other, and Travis was noticeably uncomfortable. "How've you been?" "How? I'm not doing great, thanks to you. You realize what you've been doing is criminal, right?" "Yeah, I get it. I'm sorry. So come back, will you?" "What are you talking about?" "I regretted kicking you out on impulse. Can we start over?" There was no way I would agree to this. He'd been harassing me all this time, and now he was trying to lure me back? But deep down, I knew this was coming. "You're calling because you're in a financial crunch, aren't you? It's pretty obvious." "That's not it. I didn't want to divorce you. I realized I love you." "Really?" "There's no one as kind as you." Suddenly, Travis grabbed my hand and pressed it to his cheek. I felt my skin crawl and quickly pulled my hand away, then got to the point. "Pretty convenient for you, huh? You're behind on the house payments, aren't you?" "It's not like that. I'm saying we should live together because I need you." "Throughout our marriage, I supported you in every way, yet you did everything you could to sabotage my new life. Why should I forgive you so easily?" "I need you to pay the mortgage to afford living. Please come back." Travis pleaded, his hands clasped in desperation. But I had no intention of forgiving him for the harassment I had endured. Actually, the house we rebuilt was in Travis's name, but I was the one covering the mortgage payments. And to make matters worse, the family business wasn't stable, because we had to close the factory temporarily for renovations. So basically, I was the financial pillar for Travis's family. Kicking me out, he should have known money would get tight. "Now you're going to realize how much you've messed up. The only thing waiting for you is a world of pain." Then he showed his true colors. "I'm apologizing here. What's your problem? Fine. I don't care about you anymore. You better remember this. I'll make sure you won't be able to work. I decided then and there, it's time for some serious payback. Fast forward a week later, I visited a lawyer to discuss alimony and the ongoing harassment I had been getting from Travis. Thankfully, I had video evidence of Travis caught in the act from our condo's security camera. I also got advice from the lawyer that I could claim emotional damages, so I had them send Travis the full legal documentation. Travis, now panicking, reached out to me, and we agreed to meet at the law office. I'll be filing for alimony and damages. You've got to reconsider this. Sorry, but I've already submitted all the evidence of your harassment to my lawyer. Come on, we were married, right? Can't we just sort this out? If you refuse, we'll go to court. I won't budge. My words shattered his arrogance, replacing it with a look of utter fear. I was wrong. I won't do it again. Please drop the alimony and damages. I beg you. Nope. See you in court. Or should I take this evidence to the police? What? Thought you could get away with stalking and dumping trash? You should be thankful I'm keeping this civil. Fine. Let's talk. Realizing I meant business, Travis broke down and finally agreed to his settlement. In the end, he had to pay $10,000 in alimony and $30,000 in damages. He looked like a ghost. The reason I didn't go to the police was simple. His misery was just beginning. His family defaulted on the mortgage payments, ignored the warnings, and their new home was eventually auctioned off. They both lost their home and their business in one go. Who'd have thought? Travis and his parents had a massive fight. If only they had listened to me and shut down the factory, or even stood by me over the whole Angelina issue, none of this would have happened. Now Travis's family is scattered. His parents rented a tiny rundown house in the countryside with their meager savings and live in poverty. Travis tried to make a fresh start by finding a live-in job, but Angelina stopped him. I have nowhere else to go, so take me with you. Turns out, Angelina was divorced too, because she got swindled in a shady business deal and racked up debt. Learning about the truth, Travis had a big fight with Angelina. He later texted me saying, "So help me out here." But of course, I ignored him. It seems that despite their fights, Travis couldn't abandon his sister, who had just had a newborn, and he ended up paying off Angelina's debt himself. Friends who've seen Travis told me he's now working all hours, looking like a shadow of his former self. I felt no sympathy for him. As for me, I've remarried a man from my workplace and finally found a peaceful life. He truly cherishes me, and because he's a well-planned individual, I feel secure in our life together.
My name is Clara. I'm a 32-year-old part-time working mom. I married into a family that owns a renowned business corporation. Despite the surprising ease with how both families accepted our union, others were quick to label us a mismatch. But now, 5 years into our marriage, everyone watches over us with warmth. I feel truly cherished and it makes me grateful every day. This not only applies to my relationship with my husband, but with my in-laws as well. Especially my mother-in-law. She treats me just like her own daughter. Clara, darling, are you feeling all right these days? You look like you've lost some weight. I'm worried about you. Here, take this. Why don't you go out with that co-worker friend who visited the other day? What my mother-in-law handed me was a coupon for a popular steakhouse. I can't use these lunch vouchers because I usually eat at our company's cafeteria. It'd be a waste to let it go unused, so you enjoy. Even though I could go out with my father-in-law on my day off, my mother-in-law told me not to worry, so I wouldn't feel pressured. Nevertheless, the amount inscribed in the discount voucher was incredibly luxurious, something I usually wouldn't even think about. Moreover, I was gently informed that there was a dress code suggesting I dress up a bit. I initially hesitated but agreed to enjoy the generosity of my mother-in-law when she made a certain request. Wow! My friend and I, upon entering the restaurant, instinctively gasped in awe. The lawn counter made of a genuine marble and the highly polished iron plates were simply spectacular. This is amazing. Overwhelmed by the ambience of the restaurant, a man who appeared to be the chef warmly showed us to our seats across the counter. I've been told by your mother-in-law that I can freely exercise my culinary skills to your heart's content. May I? Encouraged by the chef's experienced demeanor, my friend and I silently nodded in agreement, feeling a bit relieved. After all, we had no idea what or how to order in such a high-end restaurant. Just as the madam said, I'm delighted to see you enjoy your meal so heartily. Please come again. One by one, the delicacies melted in our mouths, and my friend and I, satiated to the brim, breathed contented sighs. The chef watched us leave with a friendly smile. However, that was delicious, wasn't it? The waiter guided us to the exit, scornfully remarked, You don't even know what you're eating. What? Shocked, we thought we misheard, but then we heard the waiter mutter, Lunch with a discount voucher. You must have gotten it for cheap at some ticket shop or something. The waiter sneered at us, making us feel uneasy. Seriously, you ate a lot. It's disgusting. Seriously, spare me. Are you even a woman? Gross. His voice was low enough to be heard only by us, but it was unmistakably filled with malice. My friend turned red with embarrassment, bowing her head down. Whether or how we got the discount voucher or how much we ate is none of your business. I don't want to hear anything from you. Let's go. Frustrated and upset, my voice shook, but I made sure to say what needed to be said and then urged my friend to leave the restaurant. As it turns out, my friend and I hold national qualifications as certified garden management engineers, recognized by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism. We work in gardening, maintaining parks and roads, and working with greening initiatives. This might sound like a cute job, but it's quite physically demanding when you're out in the field. Our body is our capital. Unlike my slim husband, I can easily carry items weighing more than 20 kilos. Okay, I lied. Well, to confess, my husband can't bridal carry me, but I can lift him. Although we're not fat, we have firm muscles for women. We love our work, but we do have moments when we wish we could be bridal carried. It's a bit of a dilemma, we often joke. Because of our physical demands, we can eat more than twice the amount of food an average woman can. Of course, I love meat. I think the chef made our hearts flutter by saying, The madam told me you could enjoy the meal to your heart's content, and I'm glad you enjoyed your meal so much because my mother-in-law had told him about us. Still, the deliciousness of the food got the better of us, and we ate more than usual. However, being called disgusting was too much. My heart, which had been so excited just moments ago, suddenly felt deflated. I'm sorry, it's because I invited you. My friend, whose cheeks were still flushed with embarrassment, reassured me that it wasn't my fault, but I couldn't shake off my feelings. Moreover, I felt pathetic when I opened my bag to give a tissue to my friend who had teary eyes, and I discovered I seem to have left my handkerchief in the restaurant. It was a beloved handkerchief that my mother-in-law had given me as a gift. As I usually dressed in jeans and sneakers for work, I was nervous wearing an unfamiliar dress and pumps and had been holding the handkerchief all the time to hide my sweaty palms. I think I dropped it when I confronted the waiter. I'll go back and get it. The thought of encountering that waiter again was distasteful, but I didn't want to leave my precious handkerchief behind. However, the restaurant had closed for lunch by the time we returned, so my friend, who had come along with me, and I researched for the back door. Ah, there! We spotted the chef and the rude waiter near the back door. Even so, to have a customer get angry like that. Wasn't there some sort of rudeness? I said it many times. This is customer service. Depending on your attitude, even the owner's reputation, who is your father, could be affected. You need to be aware of that. Yeah. In response to the admonishing chef, the waiter maintained a sullen face, nonchalantly brushing off his advice. It seems that the waiter from before was the son of the owner of this restaurant. Excuse me for interrupting, but was there a handkerchief left behind today? Feeling guilty about eavesdropping even unintentionally, I quietly addressed them. The chef, as before, responded to me with a smile. Please apologize properly, he told the waiter. The chef, who had brought the handkerchief from inside, handed it to the waiter and encouraged him to apologize. However, while the chef was inside, the waiter, who had been grumbling things like, "Don't look at me, you scum," not only disobeyed the chef's instruction, but also crumpled up the handed handkerchief and threw it forcefully at my feet. Then, with loud footsteps, he walked back into the restaurant, leaving the flustered chef to apologize profusely to us, to the point where we felt embarrassed. A while later, I had another encounter with this waiter. You're really bottom tier, aren't you? Did you know that? It's obvious in this world that being skinny is ideal. Poor people like you have no demand except for outdoor jobs, and your bones get big, don't they? I bite my tongue hard to suppress my retort towards the waiter's scornful smile. In reality, the favor I was asked for my mother-in-law in exchange for the discount coupon was a proposal for indoor decorations that would suit the restaurant's atmosphere. Clara, you also have qualifications in garden decor, right? This restaurant is our business partner. I'd like you to work on it while you're dining there. Wouldn't that be great? It was a kind gesture from my mother-in-law and a delightful work proposal, but today was a discussion while observing actual plans for the arrangement. But I never expected him to be a part of it. Furthermore, he seemed to have tagged along for the inspection, and in the absence of the chef, who usually plays the role of the supervisor, he was more intrusive than ever. I've prepared materials over there, please take a look. He was pressuring me with a low voice, checking around to make sure no one was watching. Oh, not saying anything today? Well, you would be in trouble if you can't get a job from us, right? Please, over there. What? I'm saying this loud enough for you to hear because you're ignoring me. Despite his malicious words and delight in being unpleasant, I remained silent. As much as I hated to admit it, I didn't want to ruin a job opportunity introduced by my kind-hearted mother-in-law because of him. He left the scene with a laugh, shrugging his shoulders at my reaction. Hey Clara, I'm sorry for asking this only a month later, but is it okay to have the next birthday party at the steakhouse we went to last time? My mother-in-law asked me this with a slightly troubled look when my father-in-law's birthday was nearing. It was a family tradition that my mother-in-law wanted everyone to attend my father-in-law's birthday party once a year. All three brothers, their families, and I regularly meet as we all get along well, and everyone looks forward to celebrating not just my father-in-law's birthday, but also my mother-in-law's birthday every year. I told him to tell me his favorite restaurant, and he just went ahead and booked it himself. Such a troublesome man. If I had known about this, I would have given you a coupon for a different restaurant, my mother-in-law sighed. Normally, I would readily agree, but this time I couldn't muster a smile because of the waiter. I was feeling apologetic. My mother-in-law suddenly became serious. Something happened, didn't it? Even when I tried to avoid her gaze, she quickly held my cheeks and brought my face close to hers. I confessed everything, and after thinking for a while, my mother-in-law's eyes sparkled. And so, on the day of my father-in-law's birthday, I visited the restaurant again, dressed in the same outfit as last time. Welcome, we're pleased to have you here. Lost amidst my gathered in-laws, I entered the restaurant, keeping my gaze lowered. The chef, as formal as ever, greeted me with a nod and a warm welcome, which slightly eased the tension I felt. However, unlike the counter we sat at last time, this time we were in a spacious private room. As each of us settled at the banquet table, I noticed the figure of the waiter bringing drinks. As he walked past me, his dismissive attitude and his habitual clicking tongue were just as they had been. In fact, the moment the chef left the room, it seemed as if he had discarded all his responsibilities as a waiter. With a dismissive throw of his words, he literally abandoned his service. You want a drink? Pour it yourselves. He showed no embarrassment and pointed to the drinks with such a flippant tone. Frankly, this is not a place for people like you understand? This is a social spot for the wealthy. The presence of poor people like you lowers its prestige. He said this as if it were self-evident and then heaved a dramatic sigh. And that is your best outfit? You look so poor. Haven't I told you before? A bottom-rung, poor, unintelligent glutton who can't even appreciate good food, especially a woman, should never show her face here again. Can't you even remember such a simple thing? Really, spare me. Just go home. With a shooing motion, he waved us off as if chasing away an animal. Furthermore, when we remained silent and unmoving, he seemed to grow irritated and let out another disgusted tisk. At that moment, my mother-in-law, who had been silent until now, asked in a calm voice, "Is that all you have to say?" "What? What is it, old woman? Where did you buy those clothes? Aren't you embarrassed to go out in that?" In response to the waiter's retort, my mother-in-law's demeanor changed dramatically. I felt a sudden chill, but he didn't seem to notice. "You don't want to upset Mom. She's far more terrifying than Dad." My husband once told me this, and I felt I was getting a glimpse of the truth behind his words. Whether he sensed her intensity or not, the waiter looked a bit puzzled. "So you're the son of the owner of this place, right? Well, then it's perfect that your father is here." "Huh?" With that cue, the chef, who had disappeared from sight, comes carrying a large tablet. "As per your instructions, I've connected you to the owner. He's seen everything." What? My dad?" The waiter's outlandish cry made me internally retort, even in such a time, "Not father, but dad, huh? You're out of character." However, the waiter himself was far from calm. What? Ugh! He stammered, completely ignoring my mother-in-law. "Owner, as you can see, I appreciate our past dealings, but it won't continue as before. I'm going to sell all the shares I hold in this place, worth about $10 million. Despite addressing the owner, she turned her eyes sharply towards the waiter, delivering her words with the clarity of a biting frost. "It's a good lesson for you to see what can happen because of your attitude, isn't it?" The waiter, finally grasping the critical situation, stammered again like a frog frozen under a snake's gaze. You are..." He finally remembered about respect. My mother-in-law cut him short. "Oh, I'm just a poor person who doesn't need to give you her name." The waiter dropped to his knees as if his legs gave out. It was then that the owner's voice resonated from the tablet. Madam, I really don't know how to apologize for this. I feel terrible having to do this over a screen. My son has done something truly outrageous. I'm sincerely, deeply sorry. I don't care about me. Cutting off the owner's desperate pleas, my mother-in-law showed a clear sign of anger for the first time. Clara is my pride and joy. When my son told me he wanted to marry her, I went to see her work from afar. Her work was meticulous, polite, and diligent. She's an honest woman who doesn't change her attitude depending on who she's dealing with. She doesn't deserve to be looked down upon by someone like you. No matter what clothes she wears, she's always bright, a bit clumsy, and has an irresistibly cute smile. Claire's just that way. No matter what you think, I want to fill her belly with delicious food, and watching her enjoy her meals is my happiness. Well, I won't forgive you for hurting my dear daughter again and again. My mother-in-law's determined statement overlapped with the image of my own mother in my mind, despite the differing appearances and demeanors. My mother-in-law, who was doing her best to protect her daughter-in-law, felt just like my own mother. When I noticed my husband was gently embracing my shoulder, and I realized I was crying from the warmth of his touch and the handkerchief he handed me. Sorry, I don't want to dirty your handkerchief with my snot. Can you get me a tissue? While my husband was trying to hold back his laughter on one side, I needed many tissues for my tears. During all this, my mother-in-law continued to press the waiter firmly and unyieldingly. What's important to me is the entire family here. None of us should be belittled by you. Our outfits that you snickered at are indeed no-name brands from chain stores, but for my dear family who are willing to joyfully wear clothes that they know will be looked down upon and are not even to their own tastes, I feel proud. You don't need to judge people by their fashion at first glance. As long as you cherish what's important, everything else doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Facing my mother-in-law's wrath head-on, the waiter began to tremble and apologized. You're absolutely right, madam. He was unbelievably rude to your family even though he didn't know they were related to you. I'll disinherit my son this instant. Dad! Don't call me with that embarrassing name, you failure. I made a mistake in how I raised you. Your younger brother will take over the company. Don't ever come back. Dad! The owner's son, Disown, clung to the tablet but was let out by the concerned chef. I'm sorry for involving you in this mess. What are you talking about? What happened was just clearing the way to enjoy a delicious meal. Today we're going home saying how tasty and fun it was. Well, if I had to say something to everyone who came along with us, it would be more than just I'm sorry, right? Huh? Puzzled by her bright insistence, I blurted out, Mother-in-law, you're so cool. The unexpected compliment slipped out of my mouth, causing my husband to burst out laughing, and the rest of my in-laws to clap and laugh heartily. After that, the owner's son seemed to be struggling to live in a small apartment after being kicked out of his large family home. The owner also found himself scrambling to stabilize his rising stocks after learning that my determined mother-in-law had really switched her stocks to another company, and her friends followed suit, causing the previously soaring stock price to fluctuate. I hope these days as family will continue forever and ever. That way we can always laugh together. With that thought, I felt like crying from laughter again and hurriedly started looking for a tissue.
My name is Sarah, a divorced woman in my late 20s. I'm going to share a story that happened about a year ago about my ex-husband's unbelievable betrayal and the astonishing events that followed. I was with John, my ex-husband, since our college days. After graduating and securing jobs, we got married 2 years later. John, who had a sales job at a cosmetics manufacturing company, used to say, "Appearance is everything in sales." And so he put even more effort into maintaining his looks than he did in college. Around the time we got married, his company started doing quite well, so John started investing more in his outfits. He was so particular about his hair that he went to the salon twice a month, just to keep it perfect. I mean, you can't have a sales rep for a cosmetics company looking shabby. So I had to hold back my feelings whenever I thought, isn't he going a bit overboard? Especially when comparing his situation to mine. As for me, I quit my job to become a homemaker after we got married. After about a year, I started thinking about having kids. But John would always respond with, "We don't have enough money. It's just not possible right now," and was reluctant to agree. So I reluctantly started working part-time to convince him. I juggled 2 jobs, worked 5 days a week at both a gas station and a grocery store. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally, to the point where I felt I might be busier than John himself. I couldn't even go to a hair salon often. Yet what kept me going was John's kindness that he expressed occasionally, once every 3 months or so. There were days when he would make a reservation for the both of us at the hair salon. We spend the whole day together, just being out on a date. We would get our hair done in the morning, and then go shopping or watch movies. Although there were things I wished John did better, the time spent together on our dates made up for it. Those dates helped ease out our tension and maintain our healthy relationship. However, 2 years after getting married, Megan, a friend from our college days who lived nearby, told me this. "Sarah, did you know there's a rumor going around that John's cheating on you with another woman?" Of course, I, who had no way of knowing such a thing, was shocked. Unlike me, Megan was already a mother of 2. She was enjoying her daily meetups with other moms in the park. Among the gossip there, it seemed there was one about John going into a hotel with a young woman every Friday. Sure enough, John was usually late coming home on Fridays, but that was because he had to tally the week's sales results for the weekend. At that time, I completely believed his story. Thinking it must be some mistake, I tried to tell Megan, but she countered. "I saw it once, too." Megan grabbed my shoulder and persuaded me in a strong tone. "Something's fishy for sure. You have to talk to him about this." That day, I told John about the gossip. Really because Megan pushed me to talk to him, but also because I wanted to be reassured and tell others that it wasn't true. I thought that if I confirmed this with John and he denied it, I could feel at ease. As expected, John refuted my story, saying it was just a rumor. "There's a female employee who came from out of state for our meeting. It seemed she would be late returning home, so I took her to the hotel she stayed at. Don't take strange rumors seriously." He snapped back and denied the rumor. I didn't think he would be this upset for being doubted, so I didn't know how to respond for a second. Then I felt very bad for doubting my husband when he did nothing wrong. I deeply regretted accusing my husband of cheating even for a bit. However, right after that, I witnessed my husband entering a hotel with a woman. The 2 of them, arm in arm, looked like nothing but lovers. John was wearing the suit he had worn to work that day, and the woman was in a hoodie. It didn't look like something you'd wear to a company-wide meeting. I remembered that they were seen going to the hotel every Friday, so I started to stake out around the hotel in the evenings every Friday. And sure enough, every week, John appeared with this woman. John always had his sunglasses on, and the woman had her hood deep over her eyes, seemingly trying not to be noticed. But it was the figure of my husband whom I saw every day. He wasn't under much disguise, so it was clear that it was my husband. I knew I needed proof, so I took pictures with my phone. I had to do something, so I took the initiative to contact my in-laws and explain the situation. However, the 2 of them, who've always been sweet on John, their youngest child, brushed off my story as if it were just a rumor. "What a nice guy escorting a girl who's on a business trip safely to her hotel." Seeing my father-in-law start to praise John, I showed him the picture of John with this woman. "Please, you 2, look at this." The 2 of them seemed a bit flustered when they saw the pictures, but they quickly composed themselves. "A young man with a young woman? It's normal for others to take it that way." The mother-in-law laughed, and the father-in-law nodded in agreement. The fact that it's every week is strange, and no matter how many times I look at the woman's outfit, it doesn't look like she just left the office. Their reaction got on my nerves, so to prove my husband's infidelity, I decided to get some more solid proof. I knew John was careless. He often leaves his phone on the desk with all of his notifications on. Everything pops up on his screen, both the messages and its senders. I'd never thought about going through his notifications until now, but of course, it was different this time. I took a peek at his phone that was left on his desk as usual. "Looking forward to our beach trip on Friday night?" I was both shocked and dumbfounded. I couldn't believe they were brazen enough to chat about such a thing through texts. I felt like they were treating me like I was stupid, which only intensified my anger. That very night, John told me that he had to go on a trip starting Friday night for his company's gathering. He said it so casually, but I knew it was just a facade. It was amusing to see him trying to hide something so obvious, and I felt a sense of superiority. When I asked where he was going, he responded with the name of a beach resort by the mountains. It seems he's staying at a hotel, which we've been to together before. When I called the hotel, they indeed had a reservation under John's name for Friday night. That Friday, I decided to bring my in-laws to the said hotel. Charles, my nephew-in-law, a vocational school student living with my in-laws, also wanted to come. He must have heard from my in-laws. Charles is the only son of John's eldest brother. He lost his parents in a car accident when he was in elementary school, and has since been raised by my in-laws, perhaps due to their close age. Charles was particularly fond of John among many uncles and aunts. Following John's lead, he even started to become interested in fashion, and has been saying he wants to be a hairstylist. John seemed to be very happy that Charles liked him. The two of them were more like brothers than uncle and nephew. They called each other by all sorts of nicknames, too. He must have found it hard to believe the unfaithfulness of his beloved young uncle. Just like me a little while ago. He must have wanted concrete proof that things were not what they seemed. The thought of this hurt my heart, but in the end, he couldn't come because he had school. A fateful Friday, I arrived at the hotel a little earlier than the time John and the women's check-in time, and waited for them with my skeptical in-laws. "He's probably not coming," my father-in-law murmured, relieved when they didn't show up after waiting for a while. However, just as my father-in-law sighed and started to get up from his seat, they arrived. A man in a suit and incongruous sunglasses, and a woman whose face was half hidden by the hood of her hoodie, arrived. As soon as the two walked through the entrance of the hotel, they kissed without waiting for the automatic door behind them to close. At that moment, the woman's hood fell down, revealing her hidden face. I was stunned by the beauty that had come into clear view. She had cute acorn-like eyes, a small nose pointed up, beautifully upturned lips, and her inner hair beautifully dyed bright red, which was familiar. She was a hairstylist at the hair salon my husband frequented. I had had her shampoo and blow-dry my hair several times. I remembered talking to her across the mirror, saying, "I'm going on a date with my husband after this." I was completely taken aback. I had been unknowingly going to the salon where the woman my husband was cheating with worked, excited about my post-haircut date with him. Did she think I was a dumb old woman, oblivious to my husband's infidelity while she dried my hair? Thinking this, my anger began to boil. I wanted to strike down both John and the woman. I looked at my in-laws. You both understand now, right? John is undoubtedly having an affair. They made faces as if they had bitten into sand and apologized. Never mind that. Could you please cooperate with me? Later at dinner, my in-laws and I sat next to John and the woman. My plan to get back at them was quite simple. We would appear in front of them and confront them in a situation where they couldn't make excuses. I thought that if it became known that he had been unfaithful not only to me, but also to his parents, even John would learn his lesson. "Good day." As I greeted him, John, turning to me, widened his eyes so much that the outlines of his pupils were discernible. His lover asked, "What? Who are they?" But John's half-open mouth just flapped without any words coming out. Anger surged to me again towards his mistress, who didn't even recognize me. I retorted in a sharp tone. "More like, who are you? A colleague from work?" For the first time, his mistress reacted and was taken aback. Seems like she finally recognized me. She tried to get help from John by making eye contact, but John was stunned too. I blurted out, "So it's true that you go to a hotel with some woman. How could you be so bold and lie to me? You were actually cheating on me, and yet you got mad at me for doubting you. As soon as you guys entered here, you two were kissing. We saw it clearly." At this point, anger flared in John's eyes. He glared at me and said in a low voice, "Cheating? What do you mean?" and raised his voice. "So you're telling me it's all my fault? Shut up. You were so busy with your part-time job or whatever, and never bothered to dress well for yourself. You always look so shabby, and I can't be going out with someone like you." Spurred by my husband's counterattack, his lover suddenly became more energetic. "By the way, are you his wife? I couldn't even tell at first glance because you look so shabby. Gosh, I even gave you a wonderful haircut at my place." "How dare you talk to her like that?" Finally, my father-in-law raised his voice. "John, shut this girl up right now. And John, how dare you talk to your own wife like that?" "Shut up. That's how you make me the bad guy. Well, that's to be expected. Unlike my older brother and sister, I'm never good enough. You always made me take on extra classes because I was never talented." "John, that's not right." "Shut up, old hag." John raised his voice again, but my mother-in-law was right. My mother-in-law had always told me, John's older brother and sister struggled in school, so we made John attend extra classes and tutoring, so he wouldn't have to struggle like his siblings. We did everything we could to make sure John didn't fall behind in school. He was showered with love, yet his view was skewed. After that, John continued to insult me and his parents, who tried to confront John, loudly calling them old man and old hag. "All of you, you don't understand me and always put me down. That's why I couldn't stand it and went for a girl who understands me. What's wrong with that?" Suddenly, John's phone rang. It was a call from someone. At first, John ignored it, but annoyed by the relentless ringing, he took out his phone to check it. Immediately, I could see the blood draining from John's face. Wondering what was wrong, I peeped at the screen to see a text. And just by looking at the text, I could tell his fury was flooding in like a demon. "How dare you! Because of you, our reputation is ruined. What are you doing and where are you? Come to my office right now." For some reason, John's boss was furious. I had no idea what was going on. John's phone went off again. This time it seemed to be a call, and John answered in a flustered manner. Charles, it's not what you think it is. I can explain. He got a call from Charles. From the moment I confronted John, I had called Charles to let him hear everything that went down. Charles requested for me to do so. Charles' voice was loud enough for us to hear. No, I know just exactly what you did. I heard everything. I can't forgive you for all the rude things you said to your wife. And berating my grandpa and grandma. How dare you? Also, Ashley will get a call soon too. At Charles' words, John's mistress shuddered. Huh? How does Charles know John's mistress? She's getting a call? From whom? I wondered, but I soon learned why. I'm currently interning at a hair salon for school, and the owner of the salon's right here with me. He's been listening to everything. He said he's even contacted your boss, John. Yes, that's right. Charles is aspiring to be a hairstylist and attends a cosmetology school. The salon where he is interning turned out to be the one John frequents. In retrospect, I just remembered that Charles was the one who introduced the place to John. But why would his manager call John's boss? In the middle of the call with Charles, John's phone went off again. John hurriedly looked at his phone, which he held up to his ear. The call was from his boss, the same one from earlier. I'm so sorry. The first thing that John said when he put the phone back to his ear was a strained apology. However, the voice on the other end was just as furious as earlier. No apology will make up for this. You having an affair with a worker from the hair salon run by our CEO's older brother. I let you be in charge to handle business with that store, since your nephew happened to be interning there. But how dare you make a fool out of us? Our CEO's older brother said he will no longer buy our cosmetics or our shampoo products ever again. He said he'll spread the word to the people in the industry too. I was even more flabbergasted. Who would have thought that the hair salon was a business partner of John's company, and its manager was the CEO's brother? But the most shocking revelation of the day was yet to come. That girl, she's engaged to the son of the CEO's older brother, right? Did you lay a hand on her knowing that? I was dumbfounded. The woman had been cheating with John, even though she was engaged to the son of her manager. To summarize, John had an affair with a girl that worked at the hair salon that Charles had introduced him. The place happened to be owned by the older brother of John's company's CEO. The hair salon was actually an important client for John, and even worse, the girl he cheated with was engaged to her manager's son. It was clear that this would cause trouble in many ways if people found out. The audacity of these people. John's mistress also got a call. Ashley, do you think it's okay to have an affair with your client? You're even engaged to my son. What did you say to his wife? You're fired right here and now. Also, we're done dealing with that company's shampoo and cosmetics. Don't you and your man ever come here again. The frantic behavior of John and Ashley after that was something to behold. Both of them made numerous excuses and apologized over and over again on the phone, but it seemed to no avail. In the end, John turned beet red, and Ashley left the hotel sobbing. I heard later that Charles, when he heard about John's affair, immediately suspected it was Ashley. So he consulted with the salon manager, and they both kept an eye on the situation here. After that, I divorced John. At first, he said, I don't need you anyway. But after Ashley told him she had been fired because of him, he turned around and started pleading with me. Don't divorce me. You're all I have, he said. But I cut him off without a second thought. And now, I've become a full-time employee at the grocery store where I worked part-time, and I'm studying to become the manager here. I owe it all to my years of dedication as a part-time worker. I don't need to rely on John's income anymore. By the way, I hear that John's sales performance has deteriorated rapidly since he lost the deal with that beauty salon. The rumor spread at his workplace, so I'm sure it affected John. According to Charles, John quit the company voluntarily. He was either encouraged to resign or felt uncomfortable staying at his workplace. After graduating from his cosmetology school, Charles got a job at that hair salon. Now I am his regular customer. Although, he being a novice hairstylist cannot yet handle real customers, so he practices on me by cutting my hair. It's practice, so it's free, Charles says, but I feel bad about that, so I pay at least half the actual price. To be honest, Charles occasionally asks me out on dates, but I want to prioritize my work and my own time for now, so I politely turned him down.
My loving husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and to cope with the sorrow, I threw myself into my work. One day, a man claiming to be a lawyer approached me. "Your husband has submitted a request for $5 million in damages. Are you having an affair while he's sick in the hospital?" The man smugly presented photos claiming to be evidence of my infidelity, but I had no idea what he was talking about. "We've already gathered evidence proving that you're the woman who's too busy dating to care for her sick husband." I was taken aback by the man's arrogant words. What could this guy possibly know about me? Feeling as if he was challenging my entire life up until now, I decided to take the man to my home to show him the truth. Along the way, I didn't forget to give a secret signal to a middle-aged woman in the neighborhood as we passed by. My name is Melissa, and I'm 27 years old. I currently run multiple web media platforms and make a living from it. What should I do about this? Sitting in my living room, I mutter to myself as I stare at the computer screen filled with text. "Melissa, let's take a break." My husband Kevin comes out of the kitchen and hands me a steaming cup of warm coffee. "Thank you." I smile at my partner, who sits beside me as I accept the coffee. Kevin is not just my husband, he's also my work partner. I've always loved writing, so I started as a web writer during college. But I hit a wall after just a few months since I began without any experience. A friend told me, "I know someone else who's into web writing like you," and introduced me to a man. That man would later become my husband, Kevin. Kevin also loved writing, and he'd been a writer longer than I had. So he taught me various things, from writing skills to how to get work. Initially, we were just good work colleagues, but as we spent more time together, our relationship gradually turned sweet. Before we knew it, we became indispensable to each other, transitioning from good work colleagues to beloved partners. After graduating from college, we went into business independently as web writers, and together we started to run and operate web media platforms. As our work progressed smoothly, our relationship evolved from beloved partners to one-of-a-kind family. Now, as a married couple, we mostly work from home and are always together, both for work and in our private life. When I tell this to my friends, they're surprised and ask, "Don't you get tired of being together all the time?" But whether it's because we're on the same wavelength or something else, we actually find it quite comfortable. It's probably also thanks to Kevin's calm and gentle personality. I never doubted for a second that my life with my loving husband would continue forever. One day, prompted by a friend, we decided to go for cancer screenings. We often joked that we're both so healthy, sickness isn't even in the picture. But with a friend's relative getting diagnosed with cancer, we thought this was a good time to get checked. As it turned out, I was fine, but Kevin needed further testing. By this point, a sense of unease had already set in. Kevin kept saying, "I'm fine, nothing's going to be wrong." But I couldn't shake off my worry. Then the detailed test results came back. Kevin had cancer. Moreover, the doctor told us it was at an advanced stage because it was detected late, and I collapsed right there and then. Kevin had cancer? And it's advanced? We'd had yearly checkups and nothing had ever seemed off. Sure, he had some cold-like symptoms once in a while, but Kevin always said, "I can work from home," and never really went to the doctor. If only I had noticed something back then. If only I had forced him to go to the doctor. Regrets kept flooding my mind, but then the overwhelming fear that he's going to be gone hits me, and I can't think of anything else. Kevin was admitted to the hospital immediately. and I visited him every day during my work breaks. When I came to see him, Kevin always greeted me with his calm smile. He would even happily ask about the progress of our work that we both put so much effort into. Seeing his face made me think, I have to protect this job no matter what. And even as I wiped away tears, I kept working. But every time I let my guard down, the fear that Kevin might be gone consumed me. To distract myself from the sorrow, I took on a part-time job at a nearby supermarket in addition to our web media work. Days went by like this, and a little time passed. As usual, I visited Kevin in the hospital, finished my shift at the supermarket, and was on my way home. When I get home, I need to do the web work and also clean the house. As I was walking and planning out what to do next, suddenly the world in front of me starts spinning, and I sit down in a panic. What's happening? I feel sick. My vision continues to spin and cold sweat won't stop. Feeling helpless, I sit there and suddenly hear a surprised, "Huh?" A concerned person is hurriedly approaching. A gentle hand is placed on my slumped shoulder, and a kind voice asks, "Are you all right?" Looking up, I see an unfamiliar middle-aged woman looking at me with concern. I'm feeling a bit unwell, but I'll be okay. I mumbled, trying to stand up despite my spinning vision. But the woman who catches me says, "Come this way." She almost drags me along to some place. We arrive at a familiar suburban house. Where is this? Gazing vaguely at the house, the woman says, "This is my home. Rest here for a while." She takes my hand and leads me inside. Despite it being our first meeting, her warm hand oddly comforts me, and I follow her in. We sit in the living room, sipping water, and then she encourages me to lie down on the sofa. Even as I close my eyes and take a deep breath, she wets a towel in cold water, wrings it out, and places it on my forehead. She also covers me with a blanket. A little while later, my vision stabilizes and my sweating stops. Slowly sitting up from the sofa, I face the concerned woman and ask, "Can I move now?" I say thank you and then add, "By the way, I realize I never introduced myself. Sorry about that." Upon hearing this, the woman smiles with relief and introduces herself as well. Her name appears to be Laura, and she lives here with her husband. I begin to say, "I also have a husband," but an image of Kevin lying in bed interrupts me. Noticing my hesitation, Laura says, "It's okay if it's hard to talk about it," and asks why I was sitting on the side of the road. Actually, my husband is sick. I slowly tell her about Kevin's illness, which I hadn't even shared with friends, and how I've been overexerting myself with work to distract from the sadness. Laura hugs me tightly as I choke up and finally shed tears, saying, "It's hard, isn't it?" She cries along with me. Later, I find out that Laura's house is very close to mine. What's more, our house is apparently known in the neighborhood as the wealthy couple's house due to its size. Chuckling to myself, I suddenly remember when I used to walk around the neighborhood with Kevin, people would often strike up friendly conversations with us. It feels like things have become distant since Kevin got hospitalized. Laura tells me, "People thought you two had separated and didn't know how to approach you." Through meeting Laura, my days slowly started to change. I get to know the neighbors I'd previously avoided, and we start gathering at our houses for tea. And every time I struggle to watch Kevin's health deteriorate, Laura is always there to touch my hand and encourage me with her warm touch. Then one day, Kevin received permission for a temporary return home, marking a long-awaited moment. A temporary return home. These words signal the last moments we'll get to spend with Kevin. I decided to make the most of this time and fill it with smiles. So, Kevin, now that you're home, is there anything special you want to do? First thing he says, I'd like to see Laura. While Kevin was hospitalized, I had told him how Laura and the neighbors had been taking good care of me during my daily visits. To fulfill Kevin's wish, I let Laura know we'd be stopping by. On our way, a quick glance at Kevin revealed a certain resolve in his face as he stared straight ahead. We arrive at Laura's, who welcomes us with her ever-present warm smile. She takes Kevin's hand and says, "You really are loved." Her eyes meeting mine as she smiles. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I tell Kevin, well, you know. Our eyes meeting, his face a mix of laughter and tears. During a break in the conversation, as I'm about to head back to the living room from the restroom, I overhear Kevin's earnest voice from the other side of the door. I listen closely and realize he's talking about me. Please look after Melissa when I'm gone. Hearing those words, I felt a stinging pain at the back of my nose and realized tears were falling. So that's why Kevin wanted to come here. Hearing Laura's gentle, "Of course," I couldn't stop my tears. Not much later, my husband Kevin drew his last breath. While I was prepared for it, the sense of loss hit me harder than I had imagined. Laura and our neighbors kept encouraging me during my grief. After some time had passed, a renewed sense of purpose pushed me to resume my career. I even continued my part-time job at the supermarket thinking, I need to keep moving forward. And life went on, just like that for about 2 years. As I finished my shift at the supermarket, stretching my tired body, a voice came from behind. "Excuse me." Startled, I turned around to see a serious-looking man wearing glasses. Did he lose his way? Without much thought, I asked, "Can I help you?" Clearing his throat, the man smiled softly and spoke. "I apologize for the sudden intrusion. I'm a lawyer. You're Melissa, correct? May I speak with you?" A lawyer? What could he possibly want with me? Though I was puzzled, I agreed to listen. Sure. "You see, your late husband Kevin has left you a settlement of $5 million. I was surprised when the man claiming to be a lawyer mentioned Kevin's name. Even more startling was the word compensation, almost causing me to drop the bag I was holding. What? No, there must be some mistake. "Ma'am, we have all the evidence. While your husband is in the hospital, you've been having an affair, haven't you?" The man, smirking, started to talk and pulled out his smartphone. He showed me a photo. What is this? The photo showed a man and a woman, arms linked, walking away from the camera. I must admit, the woman in the photo bears a slight resemblance to me. But it's definitely a case of mistaken identity. That's not me, and I don't know that man. Besides, my husband passed away 2 years ago. I laid out the facts and was about to walk away when the man suddenly raised his voice to stop me. "Lies about him being dead won't work. We already know you've been dating around while neglecting your sick husband." I was stunned. I remember the days when I was rushing to Kevin's hospital every day and working nonstop. What could this guy possibly know about me? I wondered, isn't it common sense for a real lawyer to offer a business card? And shouldn't he have notified me through documents or a phone call rather than meeting me in person? I shook my tired head and stared at that man. He wasn't going to back down. Realizing we wouldn't reach a conclusion, I decided it would be quicker to just show him, "Please come this way." I invited the man into my home. In hindsight, it was a bold move, but I felt emotionally charged, like he was negating my entire life. As I walked home with the man, I crossed paths with Laura, who was holding a shopping bag. Laura looked surprised, but understood something when I raised my palm. She acknowledged and returned the gesture. I opened the front door and ushered the man inside. Clearly thinking he'd successfully manipulated me, the man enthusiastically said, "Let's discuss the paperwork inside." Ignoring him, I led the way to a certain room. "Please come in." It was a room with a memorial altar. Pictures of a smiling Kevin, back when he was healthy, were displayed on it.
Wait, he really is dead?
My husband is no longer in this world, so your claim for compensation is simply impossible. Internally, I add, he would never have done such a thing even if he were alive. Noticing a man claiming to be a lawyer out of the corner of his eye, he mutters under his breath with a pale face, "That's not what I heard. This can't be right." He then casually pulls out his mobile phone to check something. I subtly peek at the screen of the mobile phone from behind, and there I see a photo of a vibrant Kevin, taken before his battle with illness. What's the meaning of this? The fact that this man has a photo of my loved one unnerves me, and I speak in a low voice. The man starts talking hastily, as if making an excuse. According to him, he purchased information about me and Kevin, who were known as a wealthy couple in the neighborhood, from a man claiming to be an informant. His intention was to scam us. The information said, "The husband of the wealthy couple is in the hospital. The wife is emotionally vulnerable." Moreover, the informant had tried to squeeze more money out of the man by feeding him a lie that "your wife is cheating on you," even providing fake evidence photos to back up the claim.
"I had no idea he was dead. That guy tricked me."
The irony of the scammer himself being scammed leaves me sighing in disbelief. Then the man who had been mumbling to himself stands up straight and looks at me with a creepy smile, saying, "Well, if I'm caught, I'm caught." A shiver runs down my spine, and I break into a cold sweat. Just as the man takes a step toward me, the sound of hurried footsteps comes from the entrance, and a moment later, several officers burst in shouting, "Police!" The tension I'd been unconsciously holding releases, and I collapsed on the spot. Thank God they made it in time. I think back to the moment when I crossed paths with Laura on the street a few minutes earlier. In reality, the hand I'd raised to Laura wasn't just a simple greeting. After Kevin's death, Laura taught me the SOS hand signal, simply a raised palm with a clenched thumb saying, "Even without words, you can say, 'Help me.'" Betting that the signal would get through, I used it. Probably understanding my SOS, Laura must have called the police. Staring at Kevin's photo on the altar, I silently apologize in my heart. "I'm sorry for putting you in harm's way." In the photo, Kevin seems to be smiling as if to say, "It can't be helped." The arrested man, upon questioning, turns out to have committed multiple frauds before and will likely serve a fairly long prison sentence. I also heard that the notorious informant has been caught. A few days later, when I visited Laura's place with a thank you gift, she scolded me. "You shouldn't let a suspicious man into your house." Laura had noticed my SOS and was going to intervene, but decided it was better to let the police handle it. Then she gently taps me on the head, as if to imprint her words, "Kevin asked me to look out for you, so please don't do anything dangerous from now on." At those words, tears well up in my eyes. Ever since then, I've been living happy days, helped by Laura and the folks in the neighborhood. Today, I put my hands together in front of the photo of Kevin on the altar. Even in a world without you, there are plenty of people who help me. You can rest easy, I whisper to myself. When I gently open my eyes, there's a comforting smile that seems to watch over me. Smiling back, I say, "All right, let's get to work today," and stand up with enthusiasm.